The land of corn brings us to a new segment of the season as we continue to work to the halfway mark. Good evening and welcome, race fans, to live coverage of the 8th race of the 2021 Four-Wide Racing League from the virtual Iowa Speedway as we bring it to you live right here on MaxSpeedTV. Happy that you're joining us as we continue our season, already 7 races down as we continue through almost to the halfway mark of our regular season. My name is Kenneth Bueno to bring you all the coverage for the drop of the green flag all the way to the checkered. We will crown again another winner here in the Four-Wide Racing Cup Series and what will be probably one of the more ecstatic ones, considering this is quite possibly one of the most treacherous and one of the more interesting tracks with these cars. They don't race here in the real life NASCAR Cup Series, but it still poses a challenge to these big heavy stock cars. To get a little reference as to where we are in the virtual world, we'll take a look at our KBRN track map, or at least our track map presented by Google Earth, courtesy of them and their images, bringing it down to Newton, Iowa, where you'll find the Iowa Speedway, 0.875 miles. A short banking, but it still does provide a challenge. You can see two opposite ends of the racetrack. You see the round edge to the front straightaway, edging at least now out of the corner with the banking, and then in a 1 and 2 where it gets very steep and it's very easy to smack that outside wall if you are not careful. So at that point, Iowa is still one of the most youngest tracks on the circuit, opened all the way back in 2006, has played host to numerous NASCAR Xfinity Series races, as well as some IndyCar races as well. Also played host to the IRL before it became the Merger IndyCar Series, but they still have held races here as early as just last season. They held races here at the Iowa Speedway under the lights as well. So with the stock cars, though, it'll be a very different challenge. Of course, the cars are very heavy. Cars are very different, so we are still edging to see exactly what will take place. But as for right now, qualifying is just about to end. We're just about 40 seconds from that mark, so we are about to get closer to the starting grid. But it has been an exciting 7 races of the Four-Wide Racing Cup Series so far. Handful of different winners, but we've had 2 repeat winners, and that has become James Holzer, who's won 2 races so far at Auto Club and earlier this season as well. But then also you bring in Brad Herman, who just picked up the checkered flag and his second win of the season last week at the Talladega Super Speedway. So we go all the way from super speedway racing to some short track racing. So the development will surely change and will bring a different attitude to a lot of other drivers who are still looking for that first win or still looking for a boost in the points. Speaking of the points, we'll bring them up for you on the middle of your screen, where Kyle Benson, off of his consistent finishes, continues to lead the charge by 7 points, though, over Daytona winner Tyler Warner in second. Then you get a larger gap to Craig Lonsarger, and then look at the battle even between the 50s and 60s behind the first place driver, Roman Law and Nicholas Vizzuti, drivers who have either had struggles or have had consistent finishes. Vizzuti, the winner at New Hampshire. James Holzer falling through the order, as it seems as though he's not going to be joining our season anymore, unfortunately. Christopher Bishop, Brandon Gillis, look at everybody behind, all the way more than 100 points behind your leader. Handful of them still looking for that first win. But drivers are lined up behind the iRacing official pace car, so it is our time to take a look at your starting grid. See exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight from the Iowa Speedway. Right on pole will be the number 11 of Austin Reedy. Again, another pole from Talladega. 23.139 lands him first on the grid. Jaden Gimble will be right alongside of him into 12th. Kyle Benson, consistent finisher, points leader, will round out the 3rd spot with Nicholas Vizzuti, New Hampshire winner, looking for a second short track win here at Iowa, starting within the 4th spot. Craig Lonsarger in the top 5. Tyler Murray, league owner, looking for some better luck. He will try to start here tonight from the 6th spot in row number 3. Pete Bruni back again for 7th place on the grid. And TJ Monier in the number 25, he will be alongside of him in the 8th spot. Ryan Steenmacher's in the 79. Roman Long, as you're seeing right in the middle of your screen. That caps off your top 10 before you get to Chuck Manure and Tyler Warner in the 33. Chuck and CJ, both new drivers in this series. Chris Massey and Christopher Bishop will be the next row to row number 7. Brandon Gillis, Robert King, 2 drivers up the top 16 that did not settle a time on the grid. And finalizing your drivers in the 17th spot will be the number At least, well, we can't see the number 32 of Robert L. Ballard Jr. So that's everybody in this grid. 17 drivers tonight. Not as many as we've seen before, but surely going to be expecting a lot of fun regardless, as the field will now start to head off, and you can find Austin Reedy there, who will take a look over on the starting grid and lead us to the green flag in just a handful of laps time. Take a look at the weather, say exactly what the conditions are, with a temperature of about 65 degrees, track temperature just a hair over 67 degrees, only about 1% humidity, winds slightly and barely to the southeast at about 1 to 2 miles per hour, currently at an overcast, but we are under the lights here at Iowa Speedway, so it is going to be relatively cool. Or I'm probably going to expect to see some of the grip levels enhanced compared to whether we ran up under the sunlight. Of course, we got the low downforce package, so that will also provide an extra challenge because you will have that grip. However, you will not have that grip as much when the tires start to wear, and the downforce will not help you whatsoever. So that will be a challenge with the 750 horsepower right underneath your right foot. So field will settle behind the 11 and the 12 of Reedy and Gimbel. We'll take one more pace lap behind the gorgeous new iRacing official pace car released in that Season 2 2021 update. And then they will lead to the green flag, make that left onto pit road, and Austin Reedy will look for some better luck that he had last week at Talladega, who sat on pole for that race, but wants to look for a lot more. So we will head down to 3 and 4 for what will be the final time until we drop the green flag for our 8th race of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series from the Iowa Speedway. Pace car will make its way to the left in just a handful of moments. We'll make that sharp left down to pit lane. Will be away from the field. Austin Reedy and Jaden Gimbel, the two to lead us to the green flag from the Iowa Speedway and race 8 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Oh, and already a big wobble by Jaden Gimbel up to the front of the field. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, but he falls significantly through the field on lap number 1. A little bit of damage to the rear end. I think he might have gotten tagged, but it seems as though everybody else will stay clean. That'll leave some more space for Austin Reedy to run away with this race lead so far, as Kyle Benson, Nicholas Vizzuti will also work forward to 2nd and 3rd. They have already spread themselves from 3rd on back, where the battle lasts between Ryan Steenbacher's and the 13 of Craig Launsauger, so they will stick together side by side for what will be the 4th spot on the racetrack. And Tyler Murray, Pete Bruni also in the background looking for some of that extra space. There's Roman Long, a slide job down to the inside. He'll make the move stick for what will be the 7th spot. And for now, Austin Reedy will hold on as Kyle Benson will try and aim to chase him down. And we will see over the course of tonight, a lot of the lane changes take place as the tires will wear. As you see right now, a lot of them using the inside groove. But then already, look at that top work already to the top near the wall. That's exactly where the runs will be working to the I side. And Iowa, one of those tracks where you can make both ends of the racetrack work. 1 and 2, probably not the best to stick to the outside. There's a big bump in the center of 1 and 2. However, when you get to 3 and 4, that's really where it stays smooth. You can really put in a lot of the arcs there. You see a difference there. Reedy will look to the bottom, to the yellow line, while Benson slides up a little bit higher. He'll almost scrub up the outside wall, but he'll stay clear for now. Lap 5 complete. Top 3 have broken away by more than a second. Right on board with the 75 and Nicholas Vizzuti, driver who won the race over at New Hampshire, one of our first short track races of the season. It was 1 mile, so this track is fairly shorter. However, for Nicholas Vizzuti, he's looking for some of that short track charm that he carried at New Hampshire, and so far doing a good job of maintaining through the top 3. You got that eyes and the crosshairs on the top 2, but just aiming to hang on. But the good news for him is that he has already spread himself mostly out of the guys in the top 4. Craig Launsauger, though, just a little bit further behind. You saw Roman Long, or what looked to be Ryan Steenbacher behind them. He lost a couple of spots. Now he falls down to 8th. And practically everybody through this field has mostly cycled through single file for the most part. There's CJ Monier, and now we have a caution on the racetrack. Seems one driver's around, and it was Pete Bruni in the 08. Seems as though he had gone around. Now he is edged there. He is blown up. I believe he had hard contact to the inside wall. We'll try and take a look at where that began with the 08 of Pete Bruni. And you look forward, I believe maybe have been contact between himself and another driver, but I think this is just a case of getting... Oh, actually, no, that was the 52 who got to the outside wall. Big hit by the 08, and that was Robert King. And I believe he had gone 7 laps down on the racetrack. This is him exiting pit road. I'm not sure whether he was just high on the rev range from the first gear, just trying to put the throttle in. As you see him now start to pedal up. Car gets loose, tries to save it, and then Pete Bruni absolutely nowhere to go. And a big wreck sends Pete Bruni completely, what will be maybe out of this race, as now we have our first yellow flag of the evening. And everybody will be laid behind the iRacing official pace car. Not for long, though, as the field will spread to pit road. Austin Reedy will be the first one down. Everybody practically in this top 3, and everybody in the lead lap will try to look for pit road. So early pit stops here on lap number 10 doesn't seem to be a huge difference compared to when we started this event. However, it will take place a lot probably through the course of tonight's race. 200 laps here from Iowa, the 0.87 5-mile venue, so it definitely will take values. And here's value on track position. Kyle Benson, Nicholas Vizzuti went head toe-to-toe for the lead off pit road, and it will be Kyle Benson, the first one out, with Nicholas Vizzuti to follow alongside. And it seems as though pole sitter Austin Reedy with a slower pit stop, he will lose spots to 5th. And actually 6th, as you see Steenbachers get by in the 79. With a big shift down pit road for the leaders. So now that leaves Kyle Benson, who was chasing down the 11 of Austin Reedy for the opening segment of this race. He will now be in control of the field when we head back to green flag racing. So under our first yellow tonight from Iowa Speedway. There's a quick one with the 52 and the 08, but at this point now we settle underneath the pace car once more. It gives us a shot to maybe appreciate the driver of that pace car and the design of the pace car. You can see right there as you're riding on board with Kyle Benson, one of our onboard cameras for tonight. And one of the beautiful iRacing pace car editions we used to have on the oval side, the iconic Ford Mustang, which you could still use in hosted sessions if you put one up, and you could put the Mustang pace car in effect, so it's definitely not gone for certain. You could do the same with the truck and the pace truck, but iRacing implementing this new pace car on default for all ovals. At one of the statements for iRacing saying that they didn't want to show any manufacturer favoritism when making this car, so they wanted to make it as different as possible. It seems as though they've done a good job of doing so that, but there have been a lot of comparisons to what that car may look like, but I guess it's all up to debate on what it actually does really resemble on the road. But it will still lead us to about 2 to green under the pace car, as there's Benson right behind him. There's Pete Bruni finally getting his fast repair. I believe he's letting everybody by right now. There goes Austin Reedy by. I think Austin Reedy fell all the way to 13th. It may have been a penalty down pit road from the officials, so this makes it even worse for the driver of the 11. It makes it much of a uphill climb, as him and Jaden Gimble, not a good start to this race. Gimble, we saw spin the tires to start this event and picked up that rear end damage because of that. I'm not sure exactly who the contact was. It might have been with the 25 behind him that gave him some of that contact. However, as further that back to the field, I don't think Gimble is too affected by the nature of what happened there. So we probably should project that we will go green flag racing at about lap number 14, and indeed we will, as the pace car will get its lights off of the top bar, and that'll lead us back to green flag racing. They'll double up. It will be Kyle Benson in the 4 machine, still looking for his first checkered flag of 2021. The 75 of Nicholas Vizzuti, winner at New Hampshire, will be in the outside of him, row number 1. Then Craig Lautensager, Tyler Murray will be on the next row, followed by 79 Steenbachers and the 42 of Christopher Bishop. That is your first 3 rows, pretty much all the way back to the top 6. Brandon Gillis will be behind them, along with Chuck Monier, Brandon Gillis, Jaden Gimble, and Robert Ballard Jr. will round out the guys in the top 10. A couple drivers already out of this one, including Chris Massey, who is 12 laps down. I believe he was not able to make it to the grid, or not able to load in. So unfortunately, he will not be joining us at the moment. But meanwhile, pace car back down pit road, and the 4 of Kyle Benson with an early jump back to turn 1 as we reach the green flag, lap number 14 of 200 after an early yellow. Benson still leading out front. Here's Lonsarger now to the inside for second. As they ship back to turn 1, Lonsarger able to maintain second, had a charge from behind from the 8 of Tyler Murray as Vizzuti practically fell like a rock all the way through the first row when he started on that restart. We're giving him right in between the contact there, though, between the drivers up front. Murray, though, around. Ryan Steenbacher's in it. Christopher Bishop getting a piece. And as they came to wreck off turn 4, it was contact with Vizzuti that sent him there. As you see, Vizzuti now with some damage, I believe, to the right side. And Tyler Murray getting the worst of it early. So 2 early yellows. You saw it right at the center of your screen. This is coming off of turn 4. There's the 8 machine of Murray. This is 75 Vizzuti. This was a dive to the inside. And then I think the 75 might have just washed up the track there. Got a little bit high off the corner. Got into the 8. And then that was enough to send him around. As you take another look at it from a further shot here, you can see the 75 sides up the track right about there. Gets into contact. Steenbacher's gets sailed around as well. Christopher Bishop slowing down. He gets a piece of it. I believe Brandon Gillis also had contact. And he did even more so that he got sent practically to the inside wall. Watch this as he was slowing down for the wreck. Oh, and nowhere to go there. He's going to definitely have to burn whatever's left of that fast pair as he now goes down pit road. Murray will also follow suit. I believe Vizzuti has also sailed it down along with Jaden Gimbel, getting some extra damage repair. But this is so unfortunate for the driver of the 8, the 79, and the 75, who were already doing so well. There's Bishop out of pit road. Murray getting some fresh tires. He's now out and away. Gillis also out. Vizzuti, though, stuck. I believe he's waiting for the actual service, not getting any fast pairs. Now he's out. That is not good news for the New Hampshire winner or anybody else involved, as now they have their fast pair burned within the first 17 laps of this race, and now they practically have to keep their eyes peeled for everything on the track. They can't get any damage from here on out, or else they will spend a lot of extra time down pit road. So early yellows have plagued this in this Iowa race. Kind of similar to what we saw in New Hampshire a couple weeks back, where we had a lot of yellows throughout the evening, where we had a spur of them. Drivers would go down pit road at that time. It was definitely one of the more interesting and longer races, rather, in this season that enabled Nicholas Vizzuti to run away in the final segment of the race to take the win. And that was his first of 2021. Luckily enough, he has that win to his benefit. So at least for now, he won't have to worry too much about what is, or what at least will be this run here throughout the rest of the evening. So a big shift in the order. Remember, sending Kyle Benson to the race lead off of pit road. Craig Lonsarger will take advantage of the drivers who did wreck in front, so he will be out to second. Roman Long will slip into third. As a result, Chuck Menuer in the number 44. He will be behind in fourth. Austin Reedy to round out your top 5. So best case scenario for Austin Reedy, to the fact that he practically had that early pit stop, had that penalty, but got mired back of the field, that he was able practically to get within the rest of the field, get some positions over what happened with Steenbachers and the guys that got into that incident with Brandon Gillis as well. So as we head down behind the pace car at the moment, still looking for what will be our next restart on I believe, lap number 21. So we have not even gotten a Legrand green flag run at all here. And it has not been easy so far for the drivers at the moment. And you probably expect with all that extra grip, using it to your advantage and getting off the corner the best way you can. But that was not the case, as Vizzuti just sliding up the track. Remember, they don't have enough downforce on these machines. They have the short splitter and the short spoiler as well. So they don't have that extra grip, or mechanical grip rather, with the downforce themselves. So the good news now is that it will practically be a run here where we'll try to get it back on lap number 21 of 200. Haven't looked so far as the fuel window for this race, so strategy has not kicked in just yet, but we're not even a quarter through the race in, so it's still a very long round. I think with the way the drivers have gone down pit road so far, it may not be in the question to go down just yet. We'll try to find out whether we end up with a longer green flag run this time by pace car to the left of pit road, and another very early start for the 4 of Kyle Benson will clear him easily ahead of the rest of the field. That seems to be the case for most of the restarts so far this season. Leader able to control all the way to turn 1, and it's practically about whether the other driver can time it right or whether they can catch him within the next couple laps. That's what Launsager and Roman Long are on the track to do, as Reedy currently running that high line. Steenbacher currently trying to look to the inside, as Murray with that fast repair is already clamped up. He has the fresh tires to his advantage. Not many battles around the racetrack. Here's one between the 25 and what seems to be the 9 of Brandon Gillis, and Bishop on the fresh tires, so they're trying to chop their way through the field along with that 75 of Vizzuti. So it's a long pack here behind the drivers, also with the 32 of Robert Ballard Jr. making his first start in the series. Haven't seen him throughout this series so far, but good to see him joining as well here at Iowa. Hopefully looking to see a lot more races with him in it, as you see him riding back in what looks to be the 13th spot, as he's a little slow on the racetrack. Jaden Gimbel trying to work around what seems to be Vizzuti. There's Tyler Warner, who's currently 2 laps down on the track. Got put there fairly early, as Vizzuti will now lose a lot of that track position. Meanwhile, Kyle Benson not able to run away from Launsager just yet, as we reach lap number 23 of 200. And Roman Long trying to claw in, but here comes Austin Reedy now in the 11 with all that speed. And taking a lap with Austin Reedy, ripping that high line. Not a lot of drivers doing that, but it has so far worked to the 11's benefit, as he's now clawed up to 3rd, and what will be the possible benefit here for the drivers, or the driver in that 3rd spot. Brandon Gillis, there he is, sitting out of pit road. There's Steenbacher's now looking to the inside of Roman Long. That 79 of Ryan Steenbacher's has had a couple top 5 finishes to his credit this season, and talking about one of his dominant performances at Auto Club earlier. Not able to get the win in the final segment of the event, but has shown a lot of promise in his Summit plowing machine. Has done a lot so far for this season to put himself in a good spot. Again, he's just one of those drivers that has been consistent, one of those drivers that has put up the finishes, but has not put up the wins just yet, and I think that's where the 79 might want to aim and change it. He's practically doing well for himself right now. Got by Roman Long for what was the 4th spot, and now he'll try to aim down the 11 of Austin Reedy for what will be the top 3. As now we may have a challenge, though, for the race lead. Craig Launsager has slowly caught up over the past couple laps around this racetrack to the 4 of Kyle Benson. These 2 drivers also without a win this season. They're practically everybody within the top 5 has not picked up a checkered flag in 2021. All these drivers performing well, but not able to get enough. And we talked about these 2 drivers here over at New Hampshire a couple weeks back, where Kyle Benson was so dominant, had a great fight up front with a handful of drivers up front, including Nicholas Vizzuti, which he lost there at the end for the race lead. But Launsager, I remember when he had stayed out on an older strategy, he had practically sailed away from the field at one point, but him being mired back in traffic practically set his race off the marks. But now he is on the mark to possibly taking the lead away on lap number 30 from Kyle Benson. Has been working the bottom side each and every time throughout. Benson still looking up the hill out of turn 4, and they will still try to be as the 13 will maybe tuck in. This will give Reedy and Steenbachers a good amount of time to catch up. You see they continue to work forward what will be the top 4 in the accordion effect altogether as they head back to turn 4. And for now, maintaining single file. Landsberger not able to break in to the race lead. There's a pass for the 5th position. That's Tyler Murray to the inside of Roman Long. Long not able to hold on to his race car the past times around. Has a little bit of damage to the rear end. I'm not sure where he picked that up from earlier tonight. With the Crown Royal Black Machine, the 14 will be falling back to 6, maybe to the clutches of 7th, as there's Brandon Gillis lap car trying to get around. There's the both Monure rather. Going to be to pronounce that name. Probably going to try and nail that down as we move forward to tonight. These are also 2 new drivers in this series, so a big welcome to them in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series, making their first start here at Iowa in the 2021 season. So good to see them making that first start here at the Speedway for the 8th race, and hoping to see them a lot more as they have practically separated themselves, put a buffer where the 9 of Brandon Gillis is. And now it's all about what the guys can do up top. A little bit squirrely up there and a little bit tight for the 4 of Kyle Benson. He's able to hold it on, but practically almost got into the outside wall, and that would have lost him a ton of time as Landsberger now starting to really put the pressure to the back bumper. He's really edging for that race lead, and he's not able to work the bottom completely just yet. That's the thing, and the duality that comes here at Iowa Speedway is that, especially here in turns 3 and 4, you can ride all the way to the top of the racetrack, and you will have the momentum off the corner, and really everything below probably not going to have enough, but it'll slow the field down now and bunch them up as a yellow flag will come out here on lap number 36, and it will involve the 42 of Christopher Bishop in 11th at the time. What is a hard hit off of turn 4. Not sure whether this occurred in turn 2, much like it did with Pete Bruni here, or whether involved in another car, but Bishop involved in another incident. It'll set us under the yellow flag within the first half of this race. So try to take a replay, see exactly where it began here with the 42. And it was an incident with Brandon Gillis that sent him out. You see him there riding around, and it was an incident in front of him. So yet again, another one. There's Vizuzzi getting contact. I think he kind of hip-checked him a little bit. You see him there off turn 4. Brandon Gillis gone around to the outside wall, sliding back down, and then the 42 trying to spread up the racetrack as Gillis had gone around. And we'll try to find out where Gillis was at the time of this, whether he had help or whether his car just went around. Here's Gaten Gimbel to the inside. I'm not sure whether this might have caused some help, and no, Gillis just losing it at the entrance of turn 3, trying to keep it alive on the gas, down the track, and then there's the 42 along there to give him extra hits, and that's not good news for the 42, for anybody involved. And yet again, another instance of a lapped car getting into an incident and then filing right through the front of a lead lap car rather, and puts him in some trouble. There was a battle off of pit road. Kyle Benson will lead. Craig Landsberger, Austin Reedy, Ryan Steenbachers, Tyler Murray, and Roman Long. So everybody within the top 5 and 6. All did not change whatsoever. Vizuzzi will trade some places up to 8th. He'll split the 44 and the 25 out of pit road. It's all going to be on whether Bishop is able to utilize that fast repair, but he won't do it this time. He'll get out, I believe, in hopes that he won't be put a lap down where the pace car is, since they are coming into turn 1. There's a 52 of Robert King involved in that first incident. He did get his fast repair, so he's riding around, but albeit 6 laps down on the track. Brandon Gillis, so out to the garage, so not sure whether we're going to see him again tonight make rounds here at Iowa so far. So again, under what is our 3rd yellow tonight. The opening 38 laps of this race, it has not fairly been friendly to the long green flag runs. We haven't necessarily seen too much of that. I think this was the first time we did see it. And I also allow everybody to calm down, but it will put some drivers in tough spots. Launsberger, remember, he was chasing down the 4 of Benson at the time and putting a lot of the pressure to the rear bumper, but now he will be on the outside there. So it'll be a very different one. We did see Vizzuti earlier not getting one to the outside and practically losing all of the ground. So we'll see whether that is the difference here for Launsberger, whether he's able to really lock in so much. A big shout out to Joshua Medlock, one of the members of MaxSpeedTV, giving some support. Always appreciate what the people at MaxSpeedTV have done so far for, at least for this league, and of course for all the broadcasters that are a member of the large team. So big shout out to Joshua Medlock, trying to bring in and rally some of the support for this league and for the broadcast of this series. And for everybody joining us, if you are new to the series, we broadcast every Wednesday night at about 9-10 p.m. Eastern for what has been a very interesting 2021 season. It's been a lot of fun, handful of different winners, and we are still looking for a lot more as we're already crept up to the halfway mark of our regular season. So if anybody's still watching, you can tune in a lot more over the course of the next weeks, all the way to about June 30th, where we'll crown our champion in the 2021 season. So everybody will be now lined up behind the iRace official pace car. The lights are out, so Kyle Benson will double up with Craig Launsberger. They will round out your first row, and Benson probably aiming to get that early start like he has done so far. But then behind him, pole sitter Austin Reedy has been back on the charge ever since, and he can easily look to get a better restart along with the 4 and capture the race lead once more, lead some more laps in his Shoney's machine. Ryan Steenbachers will be the outside of him. Tyler Murray, Roman Long. Then behind them, CJ Monier, Nicholas Vizzuti, and Chuck Monier will be on the outside there to be out to the top 10. So off turn 4, pace car will line up off pit road. And the Mustang and the Camry of Launsberger and Benson will be back under the green flag. Benson, another good start on lap number 41. But look at that good jump there from the 11 of Austin Reedy. That was enough to dig his nose under for the second spot. Steenbacher's also going to look to follow in the same tracks. And Launsberger, not enough of a run off of 1 and 2. You can't really make that high side work too well. But in 3 and 4, this is where you can make the magic happen. But here comes the 11 of Austin Reedy. A big send into 3 and 4. Now the battle persists for third. They'll tuck in line. And back we go, single file. But it may be the chance for Austin Reedy to start climbing up to the rear end of your current race leader. And you see the 11 barely squirrely off turn 4. He's really trying to make the slide work off of turn 4s. Now you ride along with Austin Reedy looking out of turn 1 and 2. He's been railing him down, or at least at this point challenging him most notably. We saw Launsberger doing the same, but we've seen big dives by the 11, merely sliding up the track and almost to the rear quarter panel of the 4, almost in reminiscence of what we saw with Vizzuti and Tyler Murray. But at the moment, Reedy still holding strong. But the big question is whether he's going to use up his equipment doing this. He's really diving the corners, really making the use of his Goodyear rubbers underneath. Now he'll look to the high side and probably look less at diving in 3 and 4. Maybe get himself a better run, set himself up for a pass perhaps in the next couple laps. And that's also really one of the things you have to take note of when you go at a track like Iowa. You really have to make your passes methodically. It's not necessarily too easy to get around a car here, whether it be courtesy of the higher grooves or the lower grooves, depending on where you are on this racetrack. It is not easy to make these moves to the front. Making a move to the inside is mostly easy when you're entering the corner, especially 1 and 2. That's where you're able to get a lot of the momentum, since the bottom is the preferred groove. And you see Reedy gaining a little bit more time there to the race leader in 1 and 2, that section of the racetrack. But then on 3 and 4, they seem to be a lot more equal this time. But even then, you really have to try and plan what your moves will be, because if you try to work the high side in 3 and 4, you're going to get mindful that you'll get the run off the corner, and you're probably going to set up for what will be 1 and 2 if you have a good enough run to get to the inside and be side by side with them to the corner. That's where you can make that attack strike and take the position away. But it'll mostly be a lot of the mistakes that cure up a lot of the drivers, especially on the outside wall, and when you're really flirting with it. I know iRacing added recently in their season update a lot of new track properties to multiple 1.5-mile tracks, including Homestead Miami Speedway, what was Chicagoland Speedway, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Richmond Raceway also included in that as well. Auto Club, which we saw a handful of weeks ago, which was before the update, and it would have been a lot different if we did have the update in place when we took the green flag there, because we would have sent a lot more drivers up to the top side of the racetrack, and it would have been a very different race. But at this point, an accordion effect is taking place. You see Reedy putting the bumper to the fore, not afraid to use it. Benson, though, very loose off turn 2, and now here will be the shot for Reedy to send it in deep in the corner with a slide jaw move, and he'll make it stick. But maybe not for long, as now Benson looks back around. He'll retaliate back to the race lead, so the dive won't work for now. But don't look for third here. Craig Launsager is on the charge, and he's brought along Ryan Steenbachers along to help, as now the leaders will fare side by side. Benson not a good enough run off turn 2 to make things stick. Reedy, who's been very aggressive since this last run to lap 50, he will take the race lead by inches, and now will clear him as the top 4 have spread away from a battle between Murray and Roman Long. And this battle here between these two Chevrolet Camaros have been persistent so far tonight. Murray on the charge back up to the front after that incident with Nicholas Vizzuti, where he got into the rear quarter panel, sent that 8 around, and ever since, that good wrench Chevrolet has been out of contention since. Burned up that fast repair, but then did get the fresh tires along with it, so he currently rides 5th, and what has been now a better comeback. The only thing he needs to worry about really is executing the cleanliness of his race car, just making sure he doesn't get any more scratches and scrapes on his Chevrolet Camaro, hoping that he doesn't get extra dents, because that will mean extra time down pit road. That does pose a very big risk at a track like Iowa, where you're practically trying to put a lot of the throttle up to the outside of the racetrack, and when you're coming off the corners, especially turn 2, that's where things get very dangerous, because you go up that hill, you see a lump out of turn 2, that's really where drivers can get unsettled. There's some bumps more in 1 and 2 that you will find in 3 and 4, so it's a little easier to strike the wall in the first section of the track as opposed to doing it in the second half. In 3 and 4, there's sort of a wider arc, and it does give you some assistance to the fact that the front straightaway is a tri-oval and not necessarily just a straightaway, as opposed to what the backstretch is, just a flat straightaway there where you practically get off of the banking, and it doesn't necessarily help you. You have to be a lot tighter through there and be more careful with the throttle. 3 and 4, you can be a little more lenient, but I think it definitely gives way to some cars getting loose and kind of kicking the rear ends out. That's mostly what you see in 3 and 4 than you usually see in 1 and 2. I think mostly in 1 and 2, you see a lot of the understeer take place. That's really where cars get into trouble. We so far haven't seen any of that, so that has been the good news, at least, as now you ride on board with the 13 of Craig Launsager, one of the drivers near the top 5 in points. And he's currently been eyeing down Kyle Benson and Austin Reedy, able to keep him within striking distance, but has not yet made a pass for the lead, or for second place, rather. There's some lap cars to support behind them. I believe that's the 52 of King. He is near the rear of the field, around 6 laps down, so you can see him just barely up the road there, off of turn 4 from the 13's perspective. So everybody practically within the top 3 are separated by less than half a second, but then almost 1 second to the race leader is 4th place Ryan Steenbachers, who's just currently riding around, I think, waiting for what this top 3 will do the next segment of this race. So for now, continuing to work through lap number 57 and already edging to the first quarter of our 200 lap event. So now we finally have stretched into what is a green flag run. Already 21 laps in for most drivers on tire wear ever since they last pit. This is one of the first instances where we do see a long run taking effect, and where we'll be able to see a lot of the patience and the statistics of some of the drivers, though. That might have been very close with the 11 of Austin Reedy, even closer with Kyle Benson. That was the 52 of King. Robert S. King in the 52 was the lap cars. That was a very rough place to find the lap car on the racetrack, right at the exit of the corner. And the 11 almost got into him, and that would have been very big and detrimental to anyone in the top 4, including the race leader. They're able to get around the 52, though, fairly safely. The rest of the top 4, as they catch up on Pete Bruni the next one around. And now we almost have contact, though, even more between the lap car. And now Robert King goes hard into the inside wall. He'll stay below the racing surface, so we stay green. But that was Tyler Murray who got into him, I believe. And you see there some damage, yeah, to the right front. And we'll have to take another look at this one. And just one of those cases, finding the lap car at the exit of the corner. Oh, and that was not good news. I think Murray had to step on the brakes hard there to avoid getting further into the 52. Well, you see there, he notices that blip off the gas. And then goes back to about 3rd or 4th gear, then off to turn 3. Well, and that was not good news for the 8 of Tyler Murray. And now we wonder whether some of that right front contact will affect the way his race car performs. So far, it doesn't seem to be posing too big of a risk. Launsager still maintaining a threat to Kyle Benson. He's being eyeing that inside, but the Camry has found no ground to make it up yet, or enough to go really door-to-door with him and take it away. He's just been pretty much putting his nose there and just letting him know, hey, I'm here. I'm a little bit faster. I'm getting this advantage, and you pretty much have to watch out where I am because I could practically make a move any second now. And these are 2 of the drivers within the top 3 in points. And remarkably, the drivers who have captured wins this season, James Holzer, Nicholas Vizzuti, you talk about some of the others that have captured wins as well. Brad Herman, the most recent winner at Talladega, who's unfortunately not here in this race tonight. Remarkably, those drivers who have gotten themselves within the point standings through wins, they are not necessarily in the top 5 in the point standings. The only one with a win that's in the top 3 is Tyler Warner. We'll take another look at it as we currently ride Green Flag Racing. That 7-point buffer between the leader and 2nd place winner. That's the only instance of a race-winning driver this season in the top 5 in points. So everybody else who has captured wins, it has not necessarily been easy for any of them. And the wins certainly haven't carried them all the way to the end of the race. So, at least for now, it continues to maintain everybody within the top 4, separated by about 1.5 seconds from the leader to the tail end of this large group. Then talking about Tyler Murray, who's pretty much rounding the top 5. There's CJ Monier in the 25 machine, starting to reel him down, along Jaden Gimbel, who is now climbed up to 7th, a driver who started on the outside of row number 1. And also Nicholas Vizzuti in the 75, who's also starting to claw his way as Roman Long continues to fall through this field. Not a very good day for the 14 as you ride along with the 75, Nicholas Vizzuti. Take a look as he heads to turn 3 and 4. As he rode along with the 75, working through position, he's now crept up to the latter half of what is the top 10 at the moment, and currently riding in 8th. As we've gotten 20 more laps under the books, now we're edging closer to our halfway mark of this event. A lot of the laps winding down very quickly. There's one driver down pit road. It is the 32, Robert Ballard Jr. This is his first stop in a while, and talked about him in his first start this series. Fairly slow underneath the racetrack, so hopefully not a big issue here for the 32, but he is very well limping through pit road. There's his pit box there. You see the 32 in what is the H. Scott Motorsports font. Now steps on the gas. Here he is entering pit road. Hopefully not a large issue for the 32 that time by. I haven't seen any more of the contact. But if we take a look back up front, we saw that pressure there. 4 of Kyle Benson was right to the back bumper of Austin Reedy. So over the course of the long run, Reedy has not been able to really pull away. Top 3 have maintained well in terms of tire wear. Nobody else has practically been better than these 3 in terms of that so far tonight. But now here comes Kyle Benson. A look to the bottom side of the racetrack will nudge him in under the 11, but the 11 very loose into turn 1, and has to ride the bumps out of turn 1 and 2, and that'll easily give way to the drivers in the first 2 positions. Back around, enough for Benson, not enough for Lautensager. Big sand and a slide job to turn 3, enough to maybe scratch his way back up, but here's a way back to the outside wall as he'll block the 4 a little bit. Contact between the 2, and Lautensager now looks to second. What a phenomenal stretch of events. Now Benson into the outside wall, barely in turn 2. And Lautensager by for second, as nobody has been able to get around Reedy barely, or for enough time really, and pull away. And you'd think with the amount of battling, you'd probably see the 79 up in this conversation, but he has not stepped his foot in. He's just kept himself in the top 4, maybe just eyeing more to see whether these drivers will use their stuff up a little bit more, and then Steenbachers could press the charge and hit the go button, get up through the top segment of this field. But what a phenomenal move there by Austin Reedy to take the lead back, and practically gave the door shut to the 4 of Benson as he slid up the racetrack in 1 and 2. That's what we talked about a little bit earlier at the top of the broadcast. The way 1 and 2 is shaped, there's a lot of bumps up there, and especially the entrance could be very loose on these race cars, and it is not recommended to be up near the wall in 1 and 2. You don't get a big enough run, and especially the run in the back straightaway is very tight, so you're going to be off the gas a lot more, and it'll be even tougher for you to even get momentum off of it. You really have to be through the bottom to the middle of the track to really make things work. That's really the duality that takes place at a track like Iowa, where things practically change from every end of the racetrack, and they continue to dynamically change as under the lights. And even in the sunset conditions, under daytime conditions, it's way different here at this track. And so far, here's a little scramble between Tyler Murray and Jaden Gimbel. Saw Jaden Gimbel catch up over the past couple times around. He was a little bit faster than Tyler Murray that last time. It was a 24.749 as opposed to Murray's 24.889. So he has been practically quicker the last times around. He's been better maybe on tire conservation. And for Murray, that damage also hasn't proved beneficial to him whatsoever. So here comes Gimbel looking for position, and now top 2 have spread away, but maybe starting to eye in on what may be our look at green flag pit stops, as Lautensager now will stretch for the race lead in turns 4. Maybe a run for the 11 onto the front straightaway. A little bit loose he goes, and a crossover in attempt, but we're about 43 laps in this stint. We may start to look at around the lap 50 to 60 mark, probably if drivers will go down pit road. And we did see the 32 of Robert Ballard do just that earlier, but it still hasn't come into full play. So I'm wondering here whether it will be the statement go to the next time around, but it is still aggressive up front. A door bang and a hip check from the 11 of Austin Reedy to the 13. But that does allow Lautensager to run away with the race lead by just a moment and spread himself, give him some time to relax here. But talking about pit stops, there's P. Bruni off pit road, getting out of the way of the race leaders, as Benson practically sending it to Reedy, and they're still aggressive, and this will probably even let the 13er Lautensager around and continue to stretch out his race lead. But talking about what will be the pit stops later in this event, if we stay green, it will be very tough to see which drivers will go down pit road first and how they will manage it. We've only seen the fuel strategy take place at a lot of larger tracks. 1.5 milers have been some, including Chicagoland, which was a flag-to-flag race. There were no yellows that entire event, and it allowed for Brad Herman to pick up the strategy, win that race, and then picked up another fuel strategy race at Talladega, staying out with some of his teammates in the Shoney's cars. So we have seen a good amount of green flag pit stop racing. So we may have to eye on whether that will be the case. Everybody practically on a 45 to 46 lap stints. But here's a change up. This is the 79 of Ryan Steenbacher's. Talked about him as he was approaching the top 4. But now, as he came out of pit road on his first lap out, we do have our 4th yellow of the evening. And it does involve, I believe it might have been, again, the 42 Christopher Bishop, who's now getting back up to speed. And I think Robert L. Ballard Jr. might have also been involved. We'll take a look and see exactly where this began. I believe it was here with that 32, and it was Kyle Benson in the 4 machine. What a dramatic sequence of events, as the 32 had driven it in the corner. This is the leaders getting around him at the point. And the 32 just goes in to the corner hard, sends the 4 out of it. We'll try to take a ride along with the 32. I'm not sure whether this is a miscommunication in the braking zone or whether this is indeed a dump. But look at this, to 1 and 2. Oh yeah, just arcs up the corner hard on the brakes and then gets right into Benson. And Benson with practically nowhere to go, just bracing for impact. And that is so tough for the driver who was running 3rd. And will now most likely have to burn up that fast repair as everybody would go down pit road. No talk for fuel strategy as everyone is in. And there's the race off pit road. Austin Reedy will grab it barely over Launsager, but this will be even worse for the 4 of Kyle Benson. And see him now off of pit road, maybe not losing as much ground as he got the fast repair quickly, got the tires in as well. So at least he won't lose too much. But guess who's slipping into the top 5? And that is the 8 of Tyler Murray. We mentioned him with that contact. I believe he's gotten it fixed. And his car seems to be doing just fine. So the 8 of Tyler Murray now might be in contention here for the second half of this race. Jaden Gimbel also started on the outside of row number 1. He's now back in it. So that's good to see that he's rebounded from that early mishap, spinning the tires on the gas to start this event. And he will now be near the front of the field. And a good spot to take away some key positions away. But for Reedy, saving grace comes with a yellow flag on lap number 87. And 200 still approaching our halfway mark of the race. Have a lot more racing to go for the second half of this event here at Iowa for the 4Wide Racing Cup Series in the 8th race of the season. And we'll take a short break and we'll be right back with more coverage from the land of corn. You're watching it right here on MaxSpeedTV. Don't go anywhere. We've got more coming next.
We got big time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane, Press and hold your reset button and we'll come and get you.
Back live for the 8th race of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series and race number 8 from the Iowa Speedway. Currently 89 laps in the books with more than a handful laps to go. We're still yet not at our halfway mark where Austin Reedy leads this race off pit road with Craig Lautensager. They have been the two that got out of pit road first, with Kyle Benson, Tyler Murray, Jaden Gimbel, and Nicholas Vizzuti to be your third row. Back up the gears and back under green for lap number 90. Still yet at our halfway mark, about 10 laps from completing that accomplishment. And Reedy to turn 1 with a head of steam. Everybody else so scrambling for position as they head out of turn 2. And so far the case for Kyle Benson. Got hit by the 32 of Robert Ballard Jr. earlier to cause that recent yellow, but a faster pair has put him back in the competition. One of the fastest cars all night long. And a driver still without a win in this series now. With the 13 of Lautensager, there is the 8 of Tyler Murray. There's one driver near the outside wall. That was the 25. We'll stay clean and green here throughout as Reedy will continue to lead. And we had mentioned the pit strategy possibly coming into play. We're about 45 laps into our stint before that yellow came out. And from then, let everybody on equal footing once again, so they will be good for the next, I'd say, 50 or so laps, or 45 to 50 laps, which probably bring us to around lap 130. I presume that's probably where we're going to end up standing, considering the fact that the yellow came out around lap 80 to 85. So now as we watch Benson losing position, there's Tyler Murray to the last step of the podium with an inside pass as Benson struggling with the race car, and he's up to the outside wall, and that will not do numbers for him. A big dent to the right side of his Ford Mustang. Now he'll lose even more ground with Jaden Gimbel on the rocks as they were both slow out of turn 4. And the 4 now looking to the bottom. Murray not with enough ground. Here's Steenbacher's now in the mix as everybody in the top 3 starts to spread away. Lautensager will look back to the bottom and will aim to chase down Reedy, who has practically been the driver that has been mostly chased throughout tonight and did lose the lead for a good chunk of this race, or for a handful of laps before taking it back. And now he's easily been the control car ever since scrappling through the field after a pit road speeding penalty to open in the first segment. We had our first handful of yellows, already about 4. And since we're edging closer to the halfway mark of this race, we'll bring you our race summary so far after 95 laps in the books. Currently 105 laps to go. We've had 4 yellows, all within sporadic distances, some near the beginning, cleanly early through this race, some coming a little bit later, splitting some semi-long green flag runs. 19 laps under caution, and we've had 4 lead changes, a lot of them taking place down pit road. But ever since Austin Reedy has made the final lead change, he has been back up to the front, and so far has been the man to beat, as he was the driver who did capture the pole. But how about Jaden Gimbel? We talked about him as well, the driver who started on the outside of row number 1, had that mishap spinning the tires, lost all of that ground, was pretty much mired in the field for the first half of this race so far, and now the comeback may start to be into effect. So the 12, although he has that damage to the left rear, it's not affecting his Camaro too much. And that good wrench, one of the colorful schemes back to Dale Earnhardt back in the NASCAR day. He will be slipping into 3rd with Tyler Murray looking to put some of that pressure. But nonetheless, a very good comeback for the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. With an update on Kyle Benson, outside wall scrape, lost him 1 more position. We're not really on track. Lost that spot to Murray and Gimbel. There's Ryan Steenbacher, who's a lap down on the racetrack. Vizzuti, though, trying to chase behind with Roman Long to help. And Tyler Warner, who we also haven't mentioned so far all night long. The driver of the 33, the winner at Daytona, came into this race 7 points behind Kyle Benson. And as we work lap number 100, he currently rides within the top 10. He's been doing so for most of this race. Was practically near the rear of the field to start this one. But now he is probably back in contention as we ride back with your race leader. Already crapped up through the first 100 laps of this race, so as we get to the halfway point, it'll be our time to go through the field, and we'll start with your current race leader and the pole sitter tonight. Austin Reedy set the fastest time to lead everyone to the green flag. Led a handful of laps, but fell through the field due to a pit road speeding penalty. He's come back, he's made his charge away, and he's gotten through the worst of it. Now the benefit is he is your current race leader with 53 laps led. Now give it 54 as he crosses the line, and it continues to count up. The driver from the Atlantic region still yet to capture a win in the 2021 season. One of the Shoney's drivers, and one of those drivers who has been teammates with Brad Herman in the 85, who has captured 2 wins this season. Really, one of his biggest shots was at Talladega before losing at least the race car and getting out of the race early into the garage. So far, Austin Reedy, laps continue to wind down. And for the second half of this race, Reedy looks to stay the dominant car up front. But don't look now. The driver in second, Craig Lonsauger, showing some of that short track prowess. We saw him at New Hampshire a couple weeks back, taking away the lead and running away with it before yellow came out. And ever since did not get to really show his strength at New Hampshire as much. But Iowa, it has been a completely different story. That Ryzen Toyota Camry has done a fantastic job of maintaining that speed throughout the top 3 as the night has progressed, and he has been easily one of the challengers to the race lead. Has he led some laps? Yes, he has, at about 7, but he has not necessarily maintained the race lead and kept control. That's really the only thing left to check on that list of things to do for the 13. Still looking for that first win in 2021. Jaden Gimbel, as we mentioned, the driver that lost his rear end to start this race, back up on the charge and on the comeback story, now sitting in the edge of the top 3, currently under fire from the 8 of Tyler Murray, but nonetheless has been a good run back up to the front. The 12 of Jaden Gimbel now working very well. A little bit of damage, but it hasn't affected him too much as he gets the advantage on the outside of Tyler Murray, who checks up. Speaking of Tyler Murray, he currently rides in the 4th spot. League owner had to get a faster pair early in this race due to contact with Nicholas Vizzuti that sent him around, gave him some significant damage. Had another close call with a lap car in the 52 off turn 2 not too long ago. But the 8 of Tyler Murray has also been on the comeback and has been one of the drivers to keep his car clean in the midst of getting that fast repair. And speaking of fast repair, that was given to Kyle Benson the last time we visited pit road, and the driver who has been another dominant force in this event along with Austin Reedy. 40 laps led for Kyle Benson tonight, and ever since got mired in the top 5 after hitting the outside wall, but he has been trying to pick the pieces back up and thrust himself back to where he was in the midst of the top 3, fighting with Lonsauger and Reedy for the race lead. Fantastic moves from him and Reedy and Lonsauger to run for the race lead, and he is easily looking on the charge back to where he once was. Speaking of drivers who are also up front, Nicholas Vizzuti, New Hampshire winner, currently rides in the 6th spot. Not too much of a loud evening for the 75. Had some contact. You saw the wreck there with Tyler Murray earlier in this event. However, ever since, he's been relatively quiet, just sticking in the top 10, maybe getting some positions here and there, but it has not been fairly flashy for the driver from California. And Vizzuti with that checkered flag to his benefit, so the short track nature has been well for him, but at least under the night sky here at Iowa has not been as strong compared to some of the other dominant forces we had already discussed. Checkered flag at Daytona for the first race this season went to Tyler Warner, and the 2nd place driver in the point standings, looking still for that edge over Kyle Benson, but over the course of the past couple weeks has not been able to do so. Benson, as one of the dominant drivers tonight, may look to gain more points and extend that lead over the 33 of Warner, but the driver so far in that 33 machine in the Chevrolet Camaro has done a well job of maintaining a top 10 at least, not getting in any incidents, not really picking up too much damage on his race car, and not necessarily the fastest, but one of the cleanest, per se, right here so far in this race tonight. Roman Long, promising, and it practically has been a roller coaster evening for the driver of the 14. Some damage to the rear end, but has not really affected him too much, but Long has fallen back through the field ever since he was up there to start this race, and over the course of this longer run has practically struggled, fallen back, given some positions away, and currently rides in 8th, where I think that's where he sticks what has been a relatively rough season for the 14 has shown up practically every race, so that has been a plus side of a lot of drivers who have missed, so he gains a lot of points based compared to those drivers. So at least we're moving along. It's not all hope lost, but tonight just hanging in the latter half of the top 10. CJ Munier in the number 25, going to try and nail his name down as soon as if he continues to make more starts throughout this season. But the driver of the 25 machine making his first start in this series in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series. So good to see him along with the other driver who is currently sitting behind him. But currently rides in the 9th spot. Not necessarily too much to discuss of what the 25 has done. Been around some constant battles, been around some solo groups, but mostly has been riding with himself, maintaining some of that rhythm. And then you get to the end of the top 10 where you'll find the 44 of Chuck Munier, the 44 machine. In his Toyota Camry, him and the 25 have been around each other for most of this race. A little bit of right side damage, though, crinkled up on his Toyota Camry based off the paint scheme Martin Truex Jr. ran, or is running here in 2021. And currently rides in this top 10 spot. Look at the rest of the field as they stand. 11th will go to Ryan Steenbachers as he's in the midst of a battle. Some of the drivers in the lead lap, but he is the first driver under that lead lap. Christopher Bishop is currently sitting 12th without any repairs to his Camaro. Probably looking for it later. And then Pete Bruni, Robert Ballard Jr., Robert King, Brandon Gillis, and Chris Massey. Everybody so far throughout this field. So a handful of drivers have given positions away, but the driver who did gain a position off that last time was the 13 of Craig Lounsauger. So give us our 5th lead change of the race at lap number 117. And I believe Austin Reedy has just gone around at the exit of turn 4, and that indeed is the case. And we stay under green. Saw a little bit of smoke near the rear end as they were entering turn 1, and that is indeed your pole sitter. And I believe he may have scrapped the outside wall to get there, and that is definitely harmful for the Shoney's machine, who had been dominant all night long. Lost the lead and lost the race car at the exit of turn 4. We'll see exactly what happened here with the driver of that number 11. We'll try to see exactly where things went down. You see him coming out of turn 4. It was the last time by. You see him there. At this point, lost the lead to Lounsauger, was losing a lot of the ground, rode the high side out of the corner, ran it up the hill, and here's where he makes contact. Reverts it back to the inside, luckily able to save it from hitting the inside wall. Locks up the brakes here. And now he currently falls back to the 9th spot with a long route to go. That is not what the 11 wants to see after what a dominating night has been. A yellow could probably save him, as he's been one of the better drivers on the short run comparative to the long run. But we really haven't seen the long runs tonight, so that has been in favor of the 11. But we may step into another one as Lounsauger now continues to ride around your race lead. And Kyle Benson now, that gives him the opportunity to slip to second as he got by both Tyler Murray and Jaden Gimbel. Like the last couple of times by Vizzuti and Tyler Murray now currently ride within 4th and 5th. Murray losing all of that ground, and then maybe even more to Tyler Warner next time by. So Lounsauger continues to lead your charge at lap number 123. Maybe we could step into our first step of green flag cycles, and we did see one driver down pit road. That is the 44. I believe this is significant damage to his machine and not necessarily pit strategy, but maybe could be the ultimate factor here for that 44. You see him step into pit road now. When there's significant damage to the right side of his race car, that's where he picked it up here. And that's where he'll maybe burn the fast spare. Not sure whether he's already burned it so far tonight, and that's maybe the benefit here. It's a double-edged sword here at Iowa, or in this league rather, that you get a fast repair to your credit when you go here at this racetrack, or at any racetrack in the season. You're able to get a fast repair, which is an option on your bottom right. It depends on where some drivers have it on their sim. where they're able to change a lot of the settings for what they want down pit road, whether they want some more fuel, they can pretty much pull it full tank or get some less fuel along the way. They can check boxes for tires, whether they want left side tires, right side tires, whichever they prefer. Also, they can get some tear offs along the way. And then at the bottom, there's a fast repair given to them. It's just one, and if you check that box in when you go down pit road, if you have any damage, it'll immediately erase it, give you a fresh race car, and then you are practically on your way in about 2 seconds time if you don't get any extra service. That's practically if you just get the fast repair, don't get any tires, and don't get any fuel. That's if you do that sort of case. If you add the others, that will extend the time period by a good margin. However, not by too much. It'll be the same amount of time, and the fast repair will practically just merge into it, and it won't give you too much time on pit road either. But when you step into that fast repair territory, let's say you get into a big wreck like we've seen with a couple of drivers tonight that have been in some significant wrecks, giving them some significant damage. If you go down pit road, burn it already down, you get a fresh race car, you have another shot to run with a clean machine. But then the really other side of the story is that if you get any more damage, you have to spend a lot more time down pit road. The optional repairs, required repairs, depending on how significant the accident is or the damage is, whether you have damage to the engine or some of the internal components of the race car. That's where things really go south, because you can't necessarily bank on it all the time, because once you burn that fast repair up, you have to be very cautious with the race car, or else things will not work well for you, and you'll spend a lot more time down pit road, and maybe in some cases with damage that won't really be solved in a matter of time down pit road. Could put you multiple laps down, and could also just give you permanent damage, especially when it comes to the engine inside under the hood. And we've already had a handful of drivers to burn those fast repairs. That does include the 4 of Kyle Benson. He's already picked up some extra damage from a hit to the outside wall. He's been one of the prime examples. Tyler Murray has also been one of those examples to get into a wreck, get a fast repair, and be back out on track with some minimal damage to the right side. Although that was contact with a lap car, not necessarily contact with the outside wall, per se. But still, nonetheless, one of the same situations. There's Tyler Werner, who had just gone by, so he slips into the top 5, and maybe will slim the margin between himself and Kyle Benson that last time by, so the points will start to slimmer in. It'll be a little bit better on the situation for the driver of that number 33 machine and the checkered flag holder at Daytona. So now we're within the final 70 laps of this race, and we may have to start looking at where drivers will go down pit road, because we haven't seen anybody do so just yet under green flag circumstances. We saw the 44 do just that. Now we saw Roman Long about a lap ago went down pit road. He's now merged back on the track. He is at the verge of going 3 laps down. Oh, well, now he's 2 laps down. He already got passed by the leader, so he is 2 laps down to the racetrack. He was one of the guys to take that gamble. But now really comes the challenge here, because once you go at this stage of the race where you have probably longer green flag runs, maybe we do get it split by yellow like we did the last time, where Ryan Steenbachers was one of the drivers to go down under the green flag, anticipating that a strategy was going to come into play. Now, really, I think is where you start to look at it. 47 laps since they last pit, so the tires are relatively old. We're on a very long run. And now it's all about whether you'll probably shoot for the undercut strategy or go for the overcut strategy or look to save. This is the final 70 laps of this race, so I believe this last pit stop will be good enough to go maybe to the end. It just depends on how long you stretch it. But it could pose a tight situation for a lot of the drivers here tonight on whether they could actually stretch it all the way through. And we'll just have to see. As the gap between the race leader and Kyle Benson currently sits at 5.3 seconds and has currently been able to chop it down and also grow just a little bit, so it is maintained rather stable. Kyle Benson a little bit quicker that time by, but at least for now, Lonsarger continues to hold strength of this race lead. If you want to watch more, though, of what we have going on MaxSpeedTV, the Southeast Coast Truck League, race number 5 from Texas, currently is underway. You can give a lot of the support to that stream at that moment. Or at least they're live right about now. You can also look to Ice Car Racing for their finale of the Chuck Anderson Ford Super Late Model Tour from Bristol Motor Speedway. That's their final race of their season, capping off the Ice Car Championship weekend, which will start at Friday in 2 days' time for the SimTV Truck Series, go for Saturday, the Race Lab Cup Series, and Sunday for the Doug DeNice Series. And all of them ending at Homestead Miami Speedway. That's the final race of their season. So if you want to tune into some super late model racing, you can have that action as well. And also the Southeast Coast Racing League. That goes, or the Truck League rather, going from Texas. So 3 different disciplines of racing you get here. A lot of them happening here on MaxSpeedTV. Very active on this channel and how these races have played out for a multitude of leagues. A lot of drivers, a lot of big names. A lot of fantastic races so far. And for this race of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series, it has been all green for about 53 laps. So nobody down pit road, and actually we do have one. That is Christopher Bishop. He is one of the next entrants to pit road as well. I don't believe he's burned a fast repair yet, but 42 without a front clip on his race car will be on his way getting some fresh tires and fuel, as they've now breached about 53, 54 laps on their stint, and has not been anyone with a hint to go down pit road at this very moment. Right along with Daytona winner Tyler Warner, working in a 3 and 4. He's now at about 52 laps on his stint, but as we see already, one driver in the top 5 has made the journey to pit road, and it is the 4 of Kyle Benson. First time we see him down pit road under the green flag stretch, and with some damage to the right side, looking to get all of it fixed and some service as well to maybe stretch it into the final 50 laps of this race. Considering how long they've stretched it, this will probably be good enough to make it to the end, considering how long they've gone. If they're being about 56 laps in, you're probably looking at about the final 60 laps of this race, which you can probably stretch. It depends on just how long you maintain it. We'll try and ride along with the driver of the 13. He doesn't seem to be coasting the race car just yet, so I don't think he's in full conservation mode. Maybe playing with a throttle here, but I don't believe it's anything yet to note of here. Yeah, not touching the clutch at all, and he has not elected to go down pit road anytime by just yet. So he's looking to stay out, go for an overcut strategy in the long haul. I believe that's what he will elect to do. Vizzuti and Gimbal also electing to stay on the same strategy. Nobody else really pitting along with Kyle Benson. Austin Reedy has also made his way down pit road, but it's been about 2 laps since he has done that. So he is already finalizing his service, and we'll see how long they stretch it. So we may cut it very close in the final segment of this event here from Iowa. We may have a blank fuel strategy run to the end, where it may just come down to improvisation, whether some drivers will elect a last-minute strategy, whether they want to keep it safe, whether some drivers want to take the risk to be out front in the final stages. We did see that with some of the cars like Brad Herman taking that risk at the end of the Talladega event. They were able to stretch it out to the race lead, even with a hard-charging group of drivers behind them. That was probably the best case scenario. Another driver down pit road, that is the 12 of Jaden Gimbal. So now he will stretch his fuel service at this point. And there he goes, getting his service, getting the fast repair now later in this event. Probably the best decision, as he was holding on with that rear end damage for so long. And now 60 laps. Here comes race leader Craig Launsauger down. We'll see if Vizzuti follows in the same path. And at the moment, it will not be the same. He will stay out an extra time. So lead will change to the hands of Nicholas Vizzuti in the 75. But for the 13 Launsauger, it is now taking the service. And now he might be good to the end of this race. So he will be down. Next drivers up in line include practically everyone in the top 5. Ryan Steenbacher has found his way back to what will be the lead lap here, but we'll see whether it'll cycle around any different way. And he will currently ride in the 5th position, as there's the race leader on his toes. So it will practically be very close. Nonetheless, if Vizzuti looks to go down pit road anytime by. But as for now, the hints continue to run that he will not stretch it in. Here's CJ Munier in the 25. He's now down pit road as well. And so he will take his service for what may be the final time as we stretch into 50 laps to go here from the Iowa Speedway for race 8 of the 2021 season. It's been a wild one tonight. Some instances of some wrecks, some cautionary periods, but for now we maintain under green flag. It's been a fairly calm event ever since. And it rides currently well with about 50 laps to go. And as they run, so Vizzuti will stay out a handful of times by, but what a big pickup though by Kyle Benson, and the short track way has easily helped Benson on the fresh tires cycle back. So even if the top three don't make it, even if they don't head down pit road, even with the fresher tires, he will easily have the advantage, and he can possibly cycle back to the race lead without any stretch or worry. As here's Craig Lounsauger. This is to unlap himself on the fresh tires. And as for everyone staying out, this may cycle in favor of Lounsauger, as he may be, or actually may cycle out in favor of Kyle Benson. It just depends on how the distance will spread between the 4 and the 13. Especially if these three aim to stay out, they may go for an overcut strategy, and it might not come to their benefit. It'll only maybe come to their benefit if they talk about fresh tires. That'll probably be where they'll get most of their momentum, most of their runs. It'll be where they get the most advantage, but stretching it out so far, that's what they're doing at this point. And Vizzuti, no signal to go down pit road. He's been ripping the high side in 3 and 4, attempting to save some more of the tires. And has not stopped on the brakes. Neither has Warner. Almost contact there with Roman Long. What a beautiful save, though, by the 14 to keep it straight. And that would have been a caution to set everything into a different complexion. But for now, Long able to save the race car. Warner still safely on the track. Well, and that was a hard stopping moment for the 14 of Roman Long. And that could have easily been our 5th yellow. But thankfully, so far, not the case, as Vizzuti aims to stay out. Now, here comes Tyler Warner down pit road. He's the next one down. So he will follow through, and it'll be up to at least Tyler Murray and Nicholas Vizzuti within the top 3 to head down pit road. Kyle Benson will look to take the position away. He'll do it so back into turn 1. Now, Tyler Warner next down to take his service. It's been a long stretch of the fuel run for the 75 of Vizzuti and for the 8 of Tyler Murray. And we'll see whether Vizzuti, each and every time around, we're still aiming to see whether he will go down pit road or whether he'll look to stretch it. But I don't believe it's possible to even stretch it that far. And to say maybe clutching and closing could help. But with the way that they're being targeted by the drivers on fresh tires, it may be the best look to go down pit road. And the final time is by. Here's Vizzuti now looking under the racetrack. This may be the signal indeed that he will take a service here on lap number 157. Now on the brakes, here he goes. We'll see if Murray will be the next one to follow. And for now, it'll be no. Murray will resound up to the front, and he'll take over net P1 for now. And Vizzuti taking his service. Kyle Benson will also slip by, as now he's in a tight battle with Craig Lounsauger for what will be the second spot here when they get around Vizzuti, and indeed they do. So now this is the fight for second with about 6.5 seconds to the race leader. So that is indeed the battle for the race lead. Murray down pit road this time. Here's Craig Lounsauger and Benson now to the front, and Lounsauger with a fresh tire advantage. He is back to the race lead on lap 159. What a strong performance by the 13 of Lounsauger so far. Now you see him getting passed by the drivers on fresh rubber. We'll see how that cycles through, but Lonsarger, the driver, who has yet to pick up a win so far this season, and this is his best shot at doing so. With that pitch strategy, able to cycle around with the dominating run in the long stretches. In the final 40 laps, he has a shot of doing just that, and to easily put himself in a championship conversation. He was riding in the top 5 in points prior to tonight's event. And now the gap is about 0.9 seconds, spreading to about a second full. And Benson just not enough, pitted earlier, used the fresh tires, but Lonsarger has it better by about 6 laps. And now it's all about what happens in the final 40 laps of this event. Considering the fact that they have already been about 15 to 20 laps here, especially if you consider the top 2, most of them have fluctuated around that range. It may be in the best interest here for Lonsarger and Benson. This will probably be their last stop of the evening, and they'll look to stretch it. It'll be about 40 to 50 laps, though, so it'll be fairly close to what the strategy they pulled in the first stint, in that last stint before they went down pit road. But we may indeed push it close here if it gets to that advantage. But it'll be even better for the drivers in the midst of this top 10. Look at this 3 wide as the 25 tries to get out of the way. That's a battle for the 6th position as Warner now stretches by. They have a difference in tires. This may be good enough for guys like Warner, good enough for guys like Murray and Vizzuti to crawl back up to the field. The only problem is the time difference is really what's going to determine whether they're able to or not, because if you look at the separation between first and the top 5 for the 5th place driver Roman Long, it's a spread of 19 seconds. And all the way back to Tyler Werner, it's about 22 seconds. And for Vizzuti and Tyler Murray, they are 1 lap down. As you see, there's Vizzuti on the charge to get his lap back. And you're right on board with him, trying to chase down your current race leader. So in this long stretch, it may not be worthy of the cause for Vizzuti or Tyler Murray unless a yellow comes out. And that could be their stretch. It just matters of whether they're able to get themselves back on the lead lap. Because for Vizzuti, he may be able to do so here, but for Murray, a little bit further back in the 9th position. You see him there right in front of Tyler Warner. It may not be the best stretch to look for a yellow now, because he will definitely not be in a lucky dog situation. That's where Vizzuti will come into play if a yellow comes out and Vizzuti's not able to get around your race leader. So it may just become a big mind game here for the guys a little bit further back in order to preserve what they have, and taking that gamble near the end to stretch it to 60 and 70 lap runs. It's just a big gamble to try and pay off here, as gap is now 2.5 seconds and growing between Benson and Lonsarger, which as we come into the final 30 laps of this race. And the control car has been the 13. I talked about Benson and Reedy charging for position and making challenges, having fantastic battles between themselves in the first 3 spots, lap and lap again. But then after Lonsarger had spread the long run, some mistakes for both Benson and Reedy sends Lonsarger right in the catbird seat. And it's all based on him in the final 32 laps of this race. As Vizzuti is still aiming at the charge to be the next driver on the lead lap in the top 10. As now he'll look to the inside and finally probably make it happen at turn 1. So there's Vizzuti around your race leader. Unlaps himself. Currently in the 7th spot. Trying chasing down the 25 has been rather slow the past times around. And Vizzuti will use that fresh tire prowess to get around. And that will also be battle for position. So maybe not too bad for Vizzuti to gain some extra points here the final 30 laps of this race. It doesn't take long to get around Iowa Speedway, at about 23 seconds at best, and the fall off is now about a second and a half. It's now about 24.4, 24.5, so we're already looking at about a second and a half of fall off, even in the first 25 to 30 laps of a run, depending on how aggressive you are. So Lonssager now by about 3.7 seconds. It continues to grow. Benson just not enough here. And even then, the tire difference making that big factor in how this race ends. Because if Benson had been a little better, if he had been more even, we probably would have been seeing these two up at the front tangling for the race. See, there's a tag to the outside wall on the front straightaway there for Benson. Not a good look as he head back to the banking in turn 1. But depending on the fact that it's about a 6-lap difference, the tires do make a factor. This track doesn't necessarily eat tires up as much as a lot of the other 1.5 milers like we've seen. Chicagoland, one of the very big examples of that. Homestead, Miami Speedway, Las Vegas. Those tracks are known very well for being tire consumers and being those tracks that really eat up the rubber underneath you, and it really plays a big run into what pitch strategy looks like in a lot of those events, and it usually comes down to pitch strategy since there's usually not a lot of yellows at places like that. But at this point, the tire difference is making it all as Benson continues to lose time. Good news though for him, he's about 4 seconds ahead of the driver behind him in Jaden Gimbel, who's rather oddly running the high line in 1 and 2. And just trying to get around. There's the lap car, Christopher Bishop. Not a good day for him whatsoever. But Gimbel on the flip side here, getting the better advantage of the first mishap. And he has a possibility of pretty much finishing where he started. If he's able to get around Benson, maybe just 1 spot less than where he started on the grid tonight to the green flag. And that will be a good comeback, at least for what has been a rather wild one for the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. His Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 1LE running nice under the lights as we speak. But there's everybody else in the top 5. Tyler Warner is the only one to cap it off. Austin Reedy, a heartbreaking end to a dominating run here tonight. Losing the race lead, then hitting the outside wall, spinning around, getting as far as 9th on the racetrack, and now currently sitting 4th on a pitch strategy that he may not benefit too much from, with the time slowly running away. Lap 178 under the books. Lap 179 is next. So we are now slowly but surely inching into the final home stretch of this event, where Lonssager has that advantage and continues to hold it strong. And has yet to really get any sort of run or challenge, at least in the final segment of this event. We'll take a look back at our race summary. Now 21 laps to go, looking for 20 to go when we cross the start-finish line next time by. 4 yellows, remember, for our evening. A lot of them happening in the first half of this race. 19 laps under that yellow flag, and we've had 8 lead changes, so add 4 to what we did when we were at the halfway mark at about lap 100, or at least when we looked at the race summary, it was about lap 95 to 98. That's where we looked at it, so add a couple more lead changes, and that's really as a result of the pitch strategy has resulted in a lot of that. So at this point, 20 to go now at the line. It's all based on how Lonssager handles the final laps and whether a yellow comes out to separate things largely, and whether anything changes. As there's a look from 1st to 5th. That is a long margin at about half a track, 19 seconds. And they may get lapped here in the final 19 laps of this race, if it so comes to that decision. There's Vizzuti now in the charge, so we may see a 3-way battle for that 4th spot. So it may become rather interesting here. Even if they do go a lap down, this will still be a good charge for position. A lot of them on different laps on tires, really on the oldest, as Warner now starts to climb through, and Vizzuti rather on the same strategy as Warner, just 3 laps fresher. So we may see a battle here for the top 5, which will be a lot of fun to watch, considering the fact that everybody else is separated in the top 3. So running through, if you want to continue watching a lot of the 4Y Racing Cup Series action, well, next week, short track racing will return, but it'll be at a shorter venue and possibly with the chaos amped up to 11. That will be next week at the Martinsville Speedway, or otherwise known as the Half Mile of Mayhem, and the Paperclip. The coverage will begin at 9:10 p.m. Eastern right here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll have it next Wednesday, March 24th, and that is officially the halfway mark of the regular season. And then we head back to a larger super speedway in Michigan for the Dash for Cash qualifier, then go to Pocono, short track Monster Mile at Dover for race 12, then go to Las Vegas and the Charlotte Roval on our second road course of the season, and then head for the Dash for Cash finale at Atlanta May 5th, and Bristol, Phoenix, and Daytona Oval, the final handful of races to race 18 before we end the regular season and head to the playoffs, where you'll find Richmond, Indianapolis, Kansas, Kentucky to start the chase. And the top 10 drivers will whittle down to 5 for the championship at the Charlotte Oval come June 30th. So there's still a long way to go in this season, and it has been rather exciting within the first 7 to 8 races, and now in this 8th race looking to be another green flag stretch to the end. And that has been the case for a lot of the ones here tonight. Haven't seen the chaos ramped up in some of these events. If you look back to one of our largely fuel strategy races that ended up at Talladega at the end, where we had a long green flag stretch. New Hampshire had a relatively long green flag stretch. Didn't necessarily have green flag pit stops, but did have a semi-long run to the checkered flag. The Daytona road course obviously was no yellows, so there had to be pit strategy regardless. And that Auto Club was a rather different race. Also had some longer runs as well. Chicagoland was flag to flag. And then Texas Oval was probably our most chaotic race of the season. I think probably other than Daytona, Texas was the most chaotic race. Had a lot of big wrecks. A lot of fantastic racing though. Big pack racing as well. That spread the field altogether was certainly a lot of fun to watch. And that was where James Holzer picked up his first win of the season in the second race. And then before taking away the second one at Auto Club. But with 11 laps to go here from Iowa, we're possibly looking at another first-time winner in Craig Launsauger. As there have been only 2 repeat winners this season. We've had about 5 different race winners over the first 7 races. And we may even look at our 6th. In race number 8. With 10 laps to go, Launsauger by 4.2 seconds. Gap seems to be closing, but it may not be enough time. As now here's the battle for the 4th spot. There is a pass. Vizuzzi now to 4th, under 1 lap down. There's Tyler Werner now. Jaden Gimbel will maybe be secured for the 3rd spot, the final step of the podium. As you ride along with Launsauger, this will be the final stretch to glory for him so far. Ripping that top, there's a battle. There's Tyler Murray and Roman Long. They're not running for position per se, but they're still close to each other on the racetrack. Let's take a look further back. There's where Austin Reedy sits. Lost both of those positions. Tyler Murray a little bit further behind, so we may see a battle there. But they may also be put 1 lap down in the final 8 laps of this event. And maybe the short track prowess, this short track strength may come to Launsauger's benefit come Martinsville next week. So a promising run at the Magic Mile, New Hampshire. Leading a good chunk of the race on staying out before coming back. And losing the positions, being mired back within the top 10 or so. And Launsauger now with a chance here in the final 6 laps. It's all about what he can do. 6 laps to go from the Iowa Speedway. Not much to talk about in terms of battles. There is Tyler Murray still trying to catch up to Austin Reedy. A couple of 100 feet in front of him, but he will be lapped here by the race leader, or at least is very close to, on the cusp of doing that. In the final 5 laps of this race, Murray will be sure to hold on to 7th unless Reedy makes a dramatic mistake, or at least he's able to catch up to him in 5 laps time. We'll just see whether the time will be given is enough for the Chevrolet Camaro there. He rides back into turn 1 with Roman Long along with, and there's Lonsarger, race leader. 4 laps to go for him, and it's only just about a couple of miles left until he's able to call himself a 4-wide racing winner in season 1, or at least the 2021 season. I think the only reason to practically give this way to description will be domination for the 13. And there's Roman Long all the way up the racetrack. Not sure exactly what happened. They might have been in contact in the final laps. That also could have been very big, but I think they'll stay clean for now. Lonsarger catches 2 to go. This will most likely be the final stretch until the bitter end. White flag in the air for Craig Lonsarger. Final time from Iowa in the 8th race of the 4-wide Racing Cup Series. Back to turn 1 and 2. Lonsarger still aiming to get around Tyler Murray. To lap him, he indeed does so the battle between him and Reedy will become non-existent. But the spotlight lays on the rising Toyota Camry off turn 4 for the final time. Checkered flag in the air. Craig Lonsarger is your winner for the first time in 2021. Lonsarger takes it here at Iowa. Benson to the line second. Jaden Gimbel will arrive in the top 3 after starting in second tonight. Nicholas Vizzuti with a wild comeback on fresh tire strategy lands in 4th. Tyler Werner will round out your top 5 as Lonsarger comes around and very quickly around the Iowa Speedway, and he will celebrate. Get a little bit of a celebratory tap from the competitor Kyle Benson. What a remarkable race those two put on, along with Austin Reedy. And now Lonsarger able to burn it down in front of the virtual fans here from Iowa. Had a fantastic win, his first win of the season. And ran 3rd in the points prior. Has a shot now to catch up, make that gap a little bit smaller between himself and the 2 points leaders. As he burns it down, celebrates, will give us our full field results, exactly where every driver finished at the end of 200 laps. It was indeed Craig Lonsarger, the winner after 200 laps here from Iowa Speedway by 2.299 seconds over Kyle Benson. It was practically a smaller gap. It was about 5 seconds at one point, but Benson was able to claw in a couple more laps, and it probably would have been a different story. Jaden Gimbel, though, 8 seconds behind. He'll round out in 3rd with a promising end to his race after being on a roller coaster ride through the start of the event. Nicholas Vizzuti, New Hampshire winner. Another strong finish at a short track. He'll finish in 4th. Tyler Werner will round out the drivers in the top 5, and maybe enough to possibly get some more points under to Kyle Benson, maybe shorten that gap just a little bit. Austin Reedy, your pole sitter. A very tough way to end it after being so dominant early. He'll finish in 6th, with Tyler Murray being the next one out in the 7th spot. CJ Munier in his first start will be 8th. Ryan Steenbachers will be 9th. And Roman Long will be the next one, 2 laps down to round down your top 10. This is the run from 11th to 17th. Bishop not with a good run tonight, with a front clip completely torn off his race car for most of the race. 3 laps down. Chuck Munier in the 44. Some damage sets him 6 laps under the leaders. Pete Bruni, 103 laps down, exiting early after a big crash on the back straightaway. Robert King also out, being a lap car involved in a handful of incidents tonight. Brandon Gillis out early as well. Robert Ballard Jr. and Chris Massey, the last two, 16th and 17th, to finish this race. So now we turn our eyes to the driver of the 13, your winner after 200 grueling laps from the Iowa Speedway. It'll be Craig Lonsarger in the 13, 81 laps to his credit, and a race swing to go along with it. We'll meet up with him right in victory lane. And Craig, I think it was that last strategy and long run speed that practically gave you this race win. It was practically to your benefit, fighting alongside Kyle Benson and Austin Reedy. Walk us through that experience as it was winding down, because you had a lot of challengers to begin, but then near the end, Reedy and Benson started to sail away, and you started to practically run away with this race.
Yeah, I felt like I had a strong car in practice, and my practice leading up to this event, and I felt really good in the truck night race the previous night, and I kind of just hung in there and tried to save my tires as best I could. And then once I got deeper into runs, I noticed that they were starting to get tight, and my car really felt pretty good the entire run. I was just trying to like keep that back end somewhat loose so it would turn, and I was able to do that. And it's hard to complain when your car feels good pretty much all night.
It certainly did. The long run speed carry in, and that was really what separated you from practically the rest of this field. But this comes your first race win. You're the 5th different winner here in the 2021 season, and it comes right here at Iowa. How good does this feel, knowing that after a lot of races where it seemed as though you had very strong cars, that now finally you get to call yourself a winner this season?
Yeah, it feels awesome. It's been almost a year coming. Last year, I was just my first year in the league, and I did have some really strong second place finishes, but I kind of blew a bunch of races in the trucks, didn't even get a win there. And so that was one of my goals coming into the season, was to at least get one win in the Cup, and I went out and did that tonight, and it feels pretty good.
Well, you certainly do so, and you cap off a dominating performance in your rise into the Camry. Before we let you go to celebrate here from the Corland, as people say it, is there anyone you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or really anyone else that makes it happen for you here in this league?
Man, I can't really thank anyone but my buddies for showing up to the race, for racing with me, and keeping it clean at the end. They definitely didn't pull any asshole moves or anything like that. They're great all night, and I appreciate just everybody who shows up to this league.
We certainly appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Again, congratulations on your win here from Iowa, and we certainly look forward to seeing you probably at least try to defend a short track win when we go to Martinsville. That's going to be an entirely different beast, but nonetheless, we'll let you celebrate from Iowa. Congratulations on your win, and we hope to see you next week from the Paperclip.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it. I was strong in the trucks last season at Martinsville, so I've never run there in the Cup car, so I'm looking forward to it.
And that is Craig Launsauger, driver of the 13 and checkered flag holder here at Iowa, in the final segment of this race, able to dominate all the way through. The driver who came up just short, though, the 4 of Kyle Benson, not able to capture a race win, but still another dominating race to send him further through the points standings. We'll bring him into the broadcast booth right on pit road. And Kyle, this comes another top 3 finish and another competitive run to the end. You had probably one of the strongest cars along with Launsauger and Reedy. How was that battle between those two? Because it seemed as though you were walking away a good bit on a restart, but then they started to come into play. Things got very tight, and you were in the midst of the battle with all of them.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun, especially with us 3 guys. We've raced with each other for a long time, so we kind of know our leaps and bounds of where we got to go. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had fun tonight, even though the luck didn't really sway my way. But, win some and lose some.
And it came down really to that final stretch to pit road where I probably presumed it was going to be a little bit tight, but it seemed as though everybody was okay to the end, and most of them were able to stretch it over about 50 laps. How did that decision come into play? Was there a lot of factors that came into it? Was there any sort of hesitation of where you were going to place the car? Because there was a big gap, at least at that point, to some of the drivers around you. What formulated that decision, and overall, how did that really come into mind, considering the fact that there weren't really long green flag pit stops up until that point?
I was keen on going where our strategy was. I wasn't going to try to deviate from that. I know some guys were trying to go get the overcut, and I decided I think just splitting the stage would have been a lot easier on my sake. But yeah, at that point, you just got to try whatever you got to do. I had right front damage since that last restart, so I was just kind of holding on and salvaging whatever I can do. So yeah, I mean, I had a fast car, and I was fine with that. So I knew if I could somehow get the overcut and pass Craig and maybe get a random caution, I could probably get the lead. But, it was fine for me. I mean, I really didn't want to, like I said, I really didn't want to do something stupid and screw up my race.
We certainly captured the second place finish, and I think given a couple more laps, you were closing in that lead at about 2 seconds at that point. So we could have had a mere battle for the race win had it been a couple laps longer. But now we step into another short track, and I think even though it is a short track, it is wildly different from this race venue, Martinsville Speedway. So chaotic, so small, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. What are your thoughts about your run coming in next week?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. White knuckle it until so you don't get wrecked. I mean, it's gonna get really tight there. Hope we get a good group of guys going and just kind of hold on because I know some guys I know can run the track pretty good, so I might be going to them this weekend to understand what's going on there and just trying to get for another top 5.
We'll see how you do, and currently one of the more consistent drivers in the point standings. Kyle, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, but before we let you go, is there anybody you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anyone else that makes it happen for you?
Big Fast Racing, everybody in Big Fast. Good win night for Craig, man. I was racing with him in the truck series for the longest time. It's good to see him win. He's a good guy. Yeah, Austin Reedy, Tyler Murray, for running the league, Roman Long for making the league, and everybody that comes in every week to give me a challenge. It's a lot of fun.
We certainly appreciate the time, Kyle. Congratulations on your second place finish, and we look forward to seeing you and what will be the paperclip and what might be one of the wildest races this season.
Yeah, you never know about there, but thank you.
Kyle Benson, driver of the number 4 Ford Mustang, finishes second, and another very strong points-paying performance, and that could be enough to maybe separate himself from third place or probably get himself in a nice place to fend off Tyler Warner for the time being. We'll slip back to third, and the driver who started on the outside of row number 1 spun the tires, got sent back to the field, but went on a comeback route all the way to the very end. It is the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. We join him now down pit road, and Jaden, it was a roller coaster event for you, spinning the tires to open this race, losing the track position, having a little bit of damage, but as time progressed, you crawled yourself back, you gained all those positions, and you end up finishing on the pitch strategy with a third place finish. Walk us through that entire journey, how that was from you for the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, I mean, I made a little bit of a mistake right away. I went into first gear and it wasn't the call, and kind of had some background noise going on, so I couldn't hear the engine when I needed to shift into second. So just span the tires there and just kind of hope people wouldn't run me over. Ended up I mean, wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but I got a little bit of damage from it, and from there it was just surviving. I knew I had the speed. And honestly, if a caution would have came out there, I saved my fast repair a little bit too long. So I was kind of running until that last pit stop with damage. And I mean, I was plateaued out with those guys up front, about 5 seconds back, and then I ended up pitting and repairing the damage. And I was catching Benson for a little bit, but I was pushing my car really hard, so he pulled away from me at the end. But I think if it would have stacked up there at the end, there would have been a hell of a finish.
And you had a practically strong car near the end. It seemed as though throughout a portion of the longer runs, your car really came alive. That's where we started seeing you in a lot of other battles and trading positions away. I know seeing you side by side with some battles. But at this track, considering how unique this is and the fact that the real-life Cup Series cars don't really race at this venue, how challenging is it here at this venue? Because you have turn 1 and 2, very different from what you see in 3 and 4, and it's technically a challenge, especially when the track starts to make itself dynamic and when the tires start to wear out.
We were discussing this in our chat the whole race, is that this track is really fun to race, and it's really a driver's track. I mean, it's not a track that someone who just got the track can come in and absolutely master. It's one of those you need to put laps down and understand how it works, how the momentum works, how your entries and braking points are. And I kind of figured that out a little bit. Didn't have the speed for Craig, and I want to congratulate him on the win tonight. And overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the finish tonight.
Well, fantastic run to the end. Only one spot shy of where you started this race. Jaden, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd just like to thank, any teams, sponsors, or anybody else that you just give the love and shout-outs to for tonight's race?
I just want to shout out everyone in the league. I mean, it's been fun. It's been clean. We've had a few incidents, but I mean, we're picking that apart, and I'm just enjoying it a lot. So hopefully we can stay up in that points contention. I know tonight was a really good points night, so we'll continue on.
Certainly being an enjoyable 8 races watching you on track. Congratulations on your 3rd place finish here, Jaden, and we look forward to seeing you take the track when we head to the Paperclip next week at Martinsville.
Thank you, bud. Take care.
And that is the 12 of Jaden Gimble, your 3rd place finisher, finalizing all the drivers within the top 3. So that will end things off for our driver interviews, and now we turn our eyes forward to the next race of the 2021 4Y Racing Cup Series season as we head to the Paperclip Martinsville Speedway at our coverage March 24, 2021 at about 9:10 p.m. Eastern. And you can find that race and practically every race from beginning to end of the 4Y Racing Cup Series right here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll sure to have all of the coverage for you as we continue on, reach the halfway mark of our regular season, continue to watch our eyes on that points battle. Well, that does it for all of us here at the Iowa Speedway. A big shout out and a thank you to everybody as a part of the race council from the 4Y Racing Cup Series, owner Tyler Murray, Nicholas Vizzuti, Matt Roberts, Roman Long, Craig Lonsauger, and Austin Reedy. A big congratulations to Craig Lonsauger, the winner here tonight, his first win of this 2021 season. On behalf of all of us at MaxSpeedTV, my name is Kenneth Bueno saying good night from the land of corn and the Iowa Speedway. We'll look to the Paperclip and the half mile of mayhem next week.